Okay, now I see the. So, hello everyone. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, Welcome to the second session of the Future Mobility webinars. It's a webinar powered by Ubiwhere and TICE.PT, the Portuguese ICT Cluster Association. My name is Ricardo Vitorino, and I work at Ubiwhere as head of innovation for smart cities, one of the expertise areas of the company. The other one is telecom, specifically 5G, and working on networks of the future, one of the topics we will be speaking today. So today we gather again three different distinct perspectives around the topic of connected mobility. So we will start by the European policy and innovation strategy from I2CAT, the renowned Internet Research Center from Catalonia. And then we'll move to the research promoted by an industry player, in this case by Ubiware. And last but not least, we will see what the city of Aveiro is doing together with university and the Telecommunication Institute. So this session is being streamed live on YouTube, and you can, as a participant, um, ask any question you might want to share with our panel speakers in the live comments session, just through the browser or your app. I will now give the floor to Dr. Puria Sayad Kodashenas, a senior researcher at I2CAT Foundation. Dr. Puria has a PhD. In fact, his thesis was awarded as recognized as a best thesis in that year at the University of Catalonia in Barcelona. And he currently works both at European Commission Research and Innovation Strategy and Policy Department and Software Networks area at I2CAT. He is the coordinator of an Horizon 2020 project called Caramel, but he has participated in more than 10 EU-funded projects. So he's frequently invited by the European Commission to share his expertise on cooperative, connected, automated, and autonomous mobility, cybersecurity, and 5G. That's quite a lot. So Puria, welcome. Feel free to present
Thank you very
your
much.
slides today.
Thank you very much for the introduction, for organizing the event. So let me just share my screen. Yeah. So, and then go to the presentation. So
Perfect.
yeah, can you see the screen? Yeah, perfect. Let me just put this up. Yeah. So again, thank you very much for organizing this nice, let's say, webinar, and give us the floor to present our expertise or ideas or background, let's say, knowledge about future mobility. So, I mean, before starting and jumping to the topic, maybe I can just give you a very short, brief intro about I2CAT and why we are here and what is our background on mobility. Basically, I2CAT is a research center based in Barcelona, Spain. And basically, we position ourselves between the research and innovation work. So we participate from one side in the research activities, we learn from them, we create assets, we create knowledge, and then we shift them to the market. We try to address societal challenges, and we try to improve society around us. So I2CAT, it's a sort of catalyst in different sectors between the research and innovation. So in terms of mobility, you can see we have a good footprint in different, let's say, initiatives in few European projects. We are a member of EIT Urban Mobility. We are participating as expert members in EU CCAM single platform. There is a bunch of activities in different, let's say, fronts related to the future mobility as a big concept. And today I'm going to present few of these activities and tell you what we are doing and what is important. But my focus would be about the cybersecurity issue, because as you mentioned, I'm the coordinator of H2020 Parallel project, which addresses this specific issue. So I will speak a bit more about the cybersecurity and how to protect the future mobility against the cyber crimes. So when we speak about the autonomous driving and future mobility, the first image that comes to our mind is most probably the cars, like autonomous cars. So like Tesla, or some other car companies that are working on autonomous driving. And ultimately, what you could imagine is like someone sitting on a car and the car drives it, but drives it by itself. But the reality is like future mobility and future transportation is much more than just a car. It's a complex ecosystem that needs better roads, more smart cities, more smarter cities, better cars, better telecommunication, infrastructure, data protection, cybersecurity. It's a very complex ecosystem. I would say maybe one of the most complex ecosystem we ever targeted to address, and we targeted to achieve some, let's say, goals to improve our life quality. So European Commission now is working on some documents to define the few main pillars of this ecosystem. As you can see, there are three main, let's say, definitions that they're working on. This is not finalized, but still a work in progress. One pillar is the connected mobility. It means that you have some service providers like the telecom providers that provide services to or takes data from the cars. So in this case, you have some extra players as conventional mobility players that come to the play and provide some services to and from the car. The other, let's say, main pillar is about cooperative intelligent transport system. Here you have road operators, you have cities that are normally, but not limited, some short-range communication tools. They use some short-range communication tools to broadcast some information like traffic status, weather status, to help the autonomous drivers to act better. And then you have, of course, the car itself, so autonomous mobility per se, that you have some tools installed in the car, like some sensors, radars, cameras, and they help you to basically replace some of the activities of the driving to those automatic machines. So like braking, steering, environmental monitoring, so on and so forth. And you can see it's a very complex ecosystem. Of course, I mean, if you want to know more about this ecosystem, there is a very good knowledge base already available. Have a look. They have listed many, many initiatives working on different fronts of future mobility, and it's worth to have a look on that. And here in this picture, I kind of summarized few initiatives related to 5G, since people here in this group are also working a lot on 5G. So some of the important corridors of Europe that are already using 5G technologies are listed in this picture. So you can see we have some, let's say, some part of Europe between Germany, France, and Luxembourg covered by one project. Between Portugal and Spain, there are some other corridors, and between Italy, Austria, and Germany, there is another corridor that already working to bring the technology of 5G for the future mobility purposes. So as I said, in terms of technology, you have a very complex technology ecosystem that basically makes different sectors to work with each other in order to provide this dream of future autonomous mobility a reality. So we have the mobility itself, we had automotive sector, telecom, road infrastructures, and of course, IT-enabled system like guys in Ubiwhere are providing a lot of good, let's say, materials in this front. So let's jump into the actual activities of ITCAT. One of the activities that we are doing, it's quite big. It's a project as big as 17 million. As I said, it's one of the 5G corridors. So it happens here between Germany, France, and Luxembourg. It's a quite important corridor, basically, because there is an internal agreement between these state members to invest more on this specific corridor, and European Commission through this, let's say, process of H2020 projects help basically a bit more basically this activity by providing some extra additional funding to these specific corridors. You can see different players are working in these corridors. There are automotive basically players like Renault. There are telecom operators. It's a very complex ecosystem. The project is running for more than a year, if I'm not wrong, and CTTC is coordinating this project. There are some nice features already investigated in this project. So we have the cross-border operational challenges, because when you're moving from one country to another, You should make sure that the seamless connectivity is happening. Of course, edge mobile computing is another important topic. So you can see a list of different technologies that are examined in these cross-border scenarios. And the project targets to bring, let's say, new regulation recommendation and spectrum usage recommendations, and of course, new business models, because when we are talking about this specific scenario, you have the telecom operators as traditional, let's say, operators that provide services, but then you have road operators that they want to play the role of neutral host, and they want to operate and send and receive information from the car itself. Another initiative that we recently got, and I took at place the role of technical manager in this ecosystem, is 5G Med. It's part of the Mediterranean corridor, so it happens. This corridor happens between Barcelona and Occitania in France. So basically, it's a cross corridor between Spain and France. And you can see it's again a very full ecosystem with different players. We have telecom infrastructure providers, we have road operators like Autopista. Satellite element is investigated here, the use of satellite, especially for the change and cover for the providing coverage on the areas that the telecom terrestrial systems cannot provide coverage. Another element that this corridor brings to the table, which makes it quite unique, is the existence of railways. So in this corridor, beside the roads, we have also rail. So we have a track of rails that connects Spain to the France, and there are some tests going to happen for the connectivity on the railway. So as you can imagine, mobility is not only about cars. It's about other means of mobility, other means of transportation, like railways, like maritime. So it's a project that is going to start in few months. We just received the good news of having this project, and it's as big as 16 million. I'm sure in near future you will hear more about this project. But beside the project, as I said, I2CAT pushes too much to transfer the knowledge, to transfer the lesson learned and assets to the market. A good example of this action is what we did in Mobile World Congress 19. Basically, it was a joint, let's say, proof of concept demonstration with SEAT. And this specific proof of concept was about vulnerable road users protection. So in the urban areas, you have some road users like pedestrians, like those people who are riding bikes. And of course, when cars are moving, there are some blind spots. So a car driver might not see the bicycle rider. So in this case, with the help of mobile edge computing technology and sending correct messages to the different road users, you can inform the driver the possibility of basically an accident, and for sure the driver could stop before the accident happens. So this is, let's say, out of European project activities of I2CAT. We did it with these companies, and it's been showcased in Mobile World Congress 19, as I mentioned. So as I said, basically, when we are talking about more connectivity, sharing data between different players, cybersecurity becomes an issue, and very important issue, and it could be a showstopper if we don't address it properly, because no one wants a hacker takes the control of an autonomous driving car in the road. So it could be a very dangerous situation, right? It could cost some people's life even. So for this reason, we are working in a specific project that I'm coordinating. It's about the artificial intelligence and let's say machine learning tools for cybersecurity issues related to the future mobility. So this project brings together 15 different partners from 8 European countries working together to address this issue. The project is running for 8 months now, and it's as big as 6.5 million. In this project, we are touching upon different pillars of mobility. So autonomous vehicles, basically the cars that are using LiDARs, GPS, sensors, cameras, and driving by themselves. Connectivity, basically those information exchange between the car and other players through the communication means. And electromobility, so we have, let's say, some cars that should be connected to some charging stations, and this may cause some vulnerability for the cyber attacks. And the project is working on different scenarios. I mean, here I just brought some snapshot of the scenarios that we're covering. One of the possibility of attacks could be confusing the perception models of the car, because there is a perception model inside the autonomous car. And by digesting the data collected from the LiDAR, sensors, and cameras, it will decide if this is the correct way or what is the status of the road. But a hacker could kind of confuse this perception model by providing fake, let's say, information through the let's say traffic signs, through the manipulating the cameras, and could cause serious issues. This is one of the main, let's say, points that we are focusing, but there are more that the project will cover. In terms of connectivity, there are different, let's say, vulnerability points, because just for example, you need to use the satellite connectivity, in this case, specifically GPS, to find the position, the actual position of your car. But by the satellite spoofing or other sort of attacks, there might be a confusion, and this could cause a very serious issue. So the project is trying to address all of this. And in terms of electromobility, it's a very complex ecosystem where you have a car plugged into the charging station, which at the end of the day should be, let's say, getting the energy from the smart grid. And in case of attacks, this could cause serious issues for the grid itself. So there are different scenarios that we are targeting here, and I'm sure, if you follow the progress of Caramel, you will hear more about these scenarios and the progress of the project. Apart from that, basically to complete the full value chain, Caramel is proposing an anti-hacking device that can be placed inside the car. So basically, it's a piece of hardware that will host some software on top in form of Docker, and tries to protect the interior of the car and these anomalies that I mentioned. So the machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithm that we are going to develop will be hosted in the form of containers in this, let's say, device, and this will be plugged in the inside of the car and makes the car more safe. Again, here there are many issues to be addressed: how we can incorporate this new device inside the car, how we can make sure that this extra element can follow the regulations and the specifications of the items that can be installed inside the car. So these are all the activities that the project is working on, and we are moving forward. Again, another point just to mention, when we're talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning, one may ask like where you're bringing all the data from. So we have some partners that are supporting us with the real life data collected to the cars that are available for the project. But of course, this data might not be enough. So the project decided to have to use some simulation tools. Some of the so basically, we divide the process in two phases. The first phase is about the training phase, and the second phase is about the testing in the field testing. So in the training phase, we collect the information from the simulation tools like Model Connect, which is a very powerful simulation tools developed by AVL. AVL is a company in Austria. This tool can give you a lot of information and can really model a very realistic scenarios with different cars, with different models, and it's very precise. It's a very, it's an industrial tool. Also, we're using another open source tool, Carla, which provides you the information of the city. So based on this mix of information from the data collected through the simulation and data generated through the actual running of the car in the field trial, we are training our models, and then later on we will use it on the field testing. So this is more or less that I wanted to talk about. I mean, of course, you can understand that the future mobility is quite complex. There are different fronts, and it's difficult to cover everything in just 15 minutes, but I try to provide just a snapshot of what we are doing here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Puri. Indeed, it's a complex world. Thank you for demystifying a few of the topics and explaining it so well. I mean, there are a lot of technology, a lot of stakeholders involved, and it makes sense that people have to reserve some corridors to test technology. When do you expect that we will reserve corridors in the city of Barcelona? Is it happening already, or?
Yeah, I mean, actually, let's say corridors in Barcelona to be reserved for the testing through the activities of 5G Barcelona. Actually, we have some streets of Barcelona already under the coverage of 5G connectivity. And through some of activities, some initial tests has been done. Like this vulnerable road user was in the city of Barcelona, and there are much more ongoing. So throughout some other activities under the umbrella of 5G Barcelona, basically we managed to do some tests at the Catalan level, let's say the regional level and the cross-border. Maybe 5G Met, the project that I mentioned, is the most important activity that is not launched yet, but I mean we are going to start it in few months now, and because this includes highway, railway, so it's a very quite big project. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you once again. Congratulations for the presentation. Just slightly over 15 minutes, but it was fully understandable. Now I'll give the floor to Pedro Diogo, Telecom Research and Innovation Manager at Ubiwhere. Pedro holds a master's degree in telecommunication and informatics from the University of Minho. If you recall, last week we had 4 cities from the Minho region. That's where Pedro studied. At Ubiwhere, Pedro has been working as telecom R&I manager while researching novel technologies such as multi-access edge computing, vehicle-to-everything communication, and distributed ledger technologies, as well as smart contracts. Wow, these are a lot of research projects, and I hope that you can give us an overview of them. Pedro, the floor is yours. Feel free to tell us a bit more.
Yep. Hi. Thanks, Ricardo. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen then. I have some slides as well. And I would like to say hi to all other participants, to all other speakers as well. So just a second, sharing my screen now. Okay, should be fine. Let me know, please, if you're seeing it.
Yes, you are. I'm time tracking, so you have 15 minutes starting now. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Pedro. I'm Telecom R&I Manager at Ubiwhere, and today we'll be talking about connected mobility, our vision for this. So as you probably know by now, Ubiwhere is a Portuguese SME founded in 2007. We have two main sectors, focus on two main sectors, which are telecom and smart cities, as Ricardo just mentioned, and we do have a strong research and innovation team. We have been deploying different solutions in more than 55 different cities, which are actually shaping our vision for this connected mobility. So let's do a quick recap on what we've been presenting during this webinar series. So for those of you who have attended last week's nice webinar by my colleague Andre, you've seen how we are enabling a mobility as a service to a single platform. If you've missed it, don't worry, it's available on YouTube. But as you've seen, the platform works by allowing data to be collected, viewed, analyzed to determine how it may be used in various contexts and demographics. However, to collect this data, there is a need for connectivity. So today we'll be focusing on the infrastructure and the connectivity layers that the mobility sector actually heavily relies on. Because as you know, and Priya mentioned this quite well, this ecosystem is quite large. There's a lot of vehicles, pedestrians, or the so-called vulnerable road users. We have sensors, we have traffic lights. I mean, we have all of these entities, so they all rely on distributed equipment providing the connectivity. Having autonomous vehicles in mind, for instance, this connectivity is actually an extra sensor that these cars have. So they use it as a way to convey intentions to other parties and to coordinate their actions. So it's a quite complex ecosystem, and to this end, there's a need to handle all of this as a living organism. So we started to look at cities as an actual nervous system, transmitting signals to efficiently coordinate the body's actions, or if you're following the analogy, the infrastructure. So on the one hand, we do have the central nervous system, where decisions and actions are taken based on knowledge derived from all this data that's been collected by the peripheral system. And the peripheral system is something that we can envision and as widely available infrastructure that is actually closer to the data source, in this case, vehicles. So this existing infrastructure is key to provide the much needed communication layer for various systems and use cases with different requirements. However, that infrastructure alone or equipment is not enough. Pipes alone just won't make it. That it's difficult to scale technically and economically. So when there is a need to really handle efficiently all of this massively produced data and to respond quickly and effectively, the intelligence layer that is typically in a centralized cloud data center, as seen before by the central nervous system, it must be distributed at the infrastructure level or at the edge of the network, meaning closer to the data source. And based on this, this has put us on the 5G and edge cloud path. So 5G technology in itself is a very versatile technology capable of being optimized for different scenarios. For instance, whether there is a need for throughput, like media applications, having, for instance, Netflix on the go in your car, whether you need latency and reliability for those critical scenarios where there are emergency situations, or even capacity, where you have IoT-like applications with thousands of sensors sending a very small amount of data, but thousands of sensors in a very small area. Data coming from these sensors like traffic lights or digital road signs. And so for the past 5 years, and in parallel with other smart cities oriented research and innovation activities, we've been focused in highly relevant 5G focused projects under the 5G.PT, which is a joint venture between European Commission and 5G Industry Association. I'm not listing here, of course, all our projects. I'm just mentioning the ones that are really focused on 5G and which allowed us to collect lots of knowledge on 5G, and now we're going towards the actual deployments. So we've collected and we've acquired expertise on key technologies such as NFV, SDN, network slicing, or in other words, a way to have access to a chunk of the network to deploy your applications. Edge computing, and most recently, or more importantly to this talk, the neutral hosting paradigm, which I will be focusing on for the next couple of slides. So what is it really? Well, this widely available infrastructure, as discussed before, it can be seen and found everywhere. However, there's a need to digitize and enable them with connectivity capabilities. So for infrastructure owners like municipalities, real estate, this provides them with a new opportunity, a new business model opportunity to capitalize on this asset, facilitating access to dense and massive deployment of this ICT equipment that is needed for this sector, so that tailored 5G network slices can then be deployed by different parties through making use of 5G technology and the whole virtualization. All of this should be done by different tools, and in the scope of Smart Lamppost, a joint venture, we were joined and launched. Our work is focused on the launch of a platform, an open platform in the web marketplace that we've launched, that is actually connecting infrastructure owners and tenants, meaning site offerings are listed on the web marketplace to then be explored by different parties, the tenants, and thus facilitating access to this ICT equipment and to actually advance these new deployments. This, of course, removes the barrier for site surveying, licensing, and installation of new infrastructure, and of course, thus reducing OpEx. So the next steps are now or moving forward, the focus is now on building a user-friendly and business-oriented 5G edge cloud platform. So the goal here is to really break the usability barrier, or to create a platform that these new stakeholders can actually join and use, because it's a new environment for these neutral hosts, They don't really know how to tap into the 5G ecosystem, so they really need an easy to use and business focused platform. So we are building all of this on top of proven technology. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, and the goal here is to leverage on research and innovation knowledge we are gathering, and that foster interoperability and openness between these parties. At the same time, because we're working at the platform level at the platform level, we want to remain agnostic to the radio access technology, because this is an ongoing battle. Some technology may be more suitable for some specific use cases. So you may use, for instance, in this scope, cellular V2X or Wi-Fi based technology like 802.11p, etc. And so if we're building all of this platform for the new stakeholders that are entering this 5G ecosystem, it's going to be fairly difficult for them to trust one another, right? I mean, if they're doing business, we have to ensure that the service they are actually requesting will be delivered on time and with the quality that is expected. And because of this, we are powering this platform that we are working on through distributed ledger technology like blockchain, so that we can enforce trust between the different stakeholders and provide them with a clear governance model that they all can follow. Now let's just take a look at how is all of this impacting this CCAM landscape. So, well, if you take a look at 5G AA or 5G Automotive Association, and going back to what we've been discussing previously, this really shows how the connected mobility landscape will look like. There's different radio links, there's plenty of infrastructure connected, such as traffic lights, roadside signals, vehicles, ambulances, vulnerable road users like pedestrians, cyclists, and all of these actors are coordinating data, coordinating actions, and all of it is being localized, coordinated actually by local edge clouds. It is playing a crucial role here. So it's a very rich ecosystem. And as you see, 5G, and this has also been taken out of 5G from 5G-AA's white paper, the Automotive Association is gathering inputs and requirements from the automotive industry to then influence the architectural needs and deployment options, which are taken into consideration by ETSI-MEC, the multi-access edge computing, and 3GPP, who is actually standardizing 5G networks. So this is why we were focused on adopting these standards and building a platform that is both compliant to ETSI-MEC and 5G service-based architecture. There's plenty of technical details I would like to discuss here, but for the sake of this webinar, let's not go into the details. But if you're really interested on these technical details, feel free to reach out and we can go over this offline. So yeah, we are actually building all of this, powered by all of these new research and innovation actions. And I would like to show you a couple of these recent international projects. Yeah, starting with UrbSense, it's a national funded project, and the main goal here is to show cities how they can actually benefit from this neutral hosting approach. So we are focusing on deploying new infrastructure and new equipment that will then support different use cases on different sectors, mobility being a key sector, and so that we can show how they can benefit from these two core technologies we just mentioned, 5G and edge cloud. So in this sense, by the end of this year, we'll have deployments on 3 major cities: Helsinki, Barcelona, and Aveiro. One other very relevant project we are currently working on, and this is with our colleagues from Instituto de Telecomunicações. We have Susanne here, she'll be talking after me. So the goal here is to follow this approach of not just relying on more pipes or more infrastructure, but focusing on the intelligence and the efficiency that we can bring onto these networks. And here we are applying it at the network level or at the routing level. So we are relying, for instance, on millimeter wave mesh backhauling to connect all of these vehicles, people, and to really handle all of this data in a very resilient and reliable manner, so that we do not only rely on fiber optics being deployed everywhere, because the costs are super high, and we have new unlicensed spectrum we can actually use to make use of. And the goal here is to really make use of ETSI MEC and to monitor the requirements of the applications that are actually running on the user equipment, to then, based on that knowledge and also on the knowledge on the radio link and the quality, we can continuously optimize the routing algorithms through network coding and really do some intelligent routing, so that it can really scale while making use of wireless links and wireless devices that we can install in this infrastructure, like lampposts, for instance. So we are actually building all of this, as I've mentioned before, and we are now focusing on creating the city nervous system living lab, so that we can facilitate the experimentation, meaning that we do want to create, as mentioned before, a platform that is really useful, that is really easy to use, so that we can show how these different stakeholders can actually take the most out of this technology and create new use cases and new services that are innovative to their business. So in this sense, we do have, it's a multi-tenant 5G and edge cloud platform. And in order for them to use, we are deploying different equipment, having 5G standalone and 5G non-standalone networks. We're going to equip, we're going to have 10 different edge nodes scattered around, so that you can take the most out of these edge nodes to run, for instance, machine learning or AI sort of applications, like getting data from different cameras scattered around the city to do some computer vision and to detect some aspects. Of course, we're going to have different IoT nodes deployed, and highly relevant to this sector, cellular V2X equipment as well. And of course, I mean, the whole platform will be already focused on this blockchain layer so that different stakeholders can actually do business with one another with assured level of quality. And yeah, we do not have a garage, but we do have our pleasant garden, so we're starting. That's it. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Pedro. I was just about to interrupt you because it's over the time, but it was a very, very concise presentation with a lot of technology. And I understand that the Smart Lamppost is a product that the company is exploring. It's a marketplace together with two other entities. Is there, when you mentioned the different research projects and leveraging the technology from the research projects, is there anything that stood out along the way that made the Smart Lamppost a reality, or at least that helped it most?
Yeah, we can, for instance, mention the 5G city project, one of these H2020 under the scope of 5GPP, as mentioned before. We did deploy, for instance, we did make use of urban furniture that was available in the city of Barcelona to provide us. So in this sense, we position ourselves in the role of an ITS service provider, meaning that we had our fleet of vehicles and we wanted to deploy our applications like CITS compliant applications. So what we did was we've used the platform, the neutral hosting platform that we started on 5G City together with our colleagues from ITCAT as well. And so we've used this platform to to make use of compute elements that have been deployed inside some street light poles, some street cabinets, and we really had our own network slice. So we had our own radio link, so that our vehicles, and we did deploy an onboarding unit. We did use it inside the vehicle. We went around the city. We were collecting data, sending data to the infrastructure, and that really was a way of showcasing the benefits of a neutral host. So they own the infrastructure. It's fairly easy for them to install some equipment. They have the whole networking, the whole backhaul stuff. And we just wanted to, okay, I need to have my fleet in this city. I need to have I need some connectivity here. How can I do that? And I need to coordinate different data. So we just used their platform, and it was a very nice example. So yeah, and it was a strange one because Ubiwhere itself was thinking of, okay, now how can we actually deploy applications on top of this? Will it really work? And it did. It was a very interesting project for sure.
Okay, thank you so much for clearing that out, and it was nice to end with a test bed in Aveiro, because I believe that's one of the topics Susanna will talk with whom I will kindly ask to start sharing the screen. Susanna, for those of you who do not know her already, she's a professor at Aveiro University and researcher at Institute of Telecommunications in the same city. She holds a PhD in electrical engineering from the university where she is currently professor for over 10 years, and also doing research with extensive experience in the fields of telecommunications and mobile networks. She also was awarded in 2016 European Union Innovative Women's Prize for the work done at Venium, the startup responsible for the creation and management of the largest vehicular network in the world, and also being a professor in the University of Porto. Well, Susanna, you're everywhere. Thank you for having the time to be with us today here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It's always an honor, and we are stuck at home, so it's a nice opportunity to be with the outside somehow. So I was asked to talk about the future mobility, and this first slide I have here is how I see that is current and future mobility. So I see it as a connected vision. So why? Because when we think about the mobility in the cities and how we will be able to improve mobility in the cities, I always considering that I can improve mobility of the cars, of the bicycles, of the people, of the pedestrians, so that you already talked before, if we are able to connect with them. So if we are able to have the information, if we are able to connect everything in the same place, even here some drones and boats, and here too, right? Because we may have drones with cameras that are watching and seeing the traffic congestion in the cities, being able to advise the authorities. And I see this as a very, very connected vision. So this figure here is very, very old. The one here in the below is from the city of Porto, where we connected many years ago. It was in 2013, more than 400 buses. And actually this network is still, and this is a commercial network where the buses are connected and providing information, providing services between themselves, and also providing internet access to the people that are inside or near the buses. And yeah, so we can use this if we connect the vehicles, if we connect the bicycles, the traffic lights, the traffic signs, everyone. So we can do wonderful things because we know where everyone is and what they can do. We can help them coordinate, or even in the future of self-driving cars, we can even coordinate them without a human being there. And we can get lots of information. So if we use mobility here, for example, we can have sensors in the cars, we can have sensors in the in bicycles, in the boats, and this can also interoperate between the mobile part and the environment part. So we can do maps of the health of the city independent of what we want to measure. So this is something that can actually help us in other ways. So if I want to have a map of the CO2 emissions in the city, so I could, with car and a set of cars, be able to address this. Okay, so going to Aveiro, for a long time that I'd like to be able to have our city, so here in Aveiro, as a lab. Okay, so it's to improve mobility, but not only, but being able to have people from industry, to have people from academia to come here to test their solutions, to include more technology, to include more capacity, whatever, but to be able to test what they can with a urban lab environment. This project, Aveiro STEAM.PT, is actually a project from the municipality. Okay, so it's the municipality of Aveiro that, together with other partners, so we in IT, with the University of Aveiro, with Altis Labs, with Inovaria, and so on. So we made a consortium for this project, which is a European project, but it's a urban innovative action. Okay. And in this project, we have several axes. We have even education, we have even arts, okay? So it's a very, very broad project, but then we have three main axes respective to technology. We have environment, we have energy, and one of them is mobility. So, and I'm here to talk about mobility. So what did you want to do? So we want to have mobile access points with geolocation, environment sensors to perform what I referred to. So to have this kind of map of the city to understand where is the traffic, where are the problems, what can be done about the city. Information about people too. So if people are able, so if we're able to have information from people all the time, so we can know their habits, their routines, their preferences, and we can make a city that is more knowledgeable of the citizen, and it can also improve the life of the citizen. And yes, on the other part, we want to have safer driving. We want to detect, we want to prevent accidents. And of course, if we have smart parking in the city, so this can also help a lot. Okay, so in terms of mobility, this was our ideas. As I said, there are many other axis. But how to start? So the first part that we had to do was to connect the city. So the map that you are looking into here is the map of Aveiro. You have these red lines and these blue lines, which is a fiber that we actually have been deploying since December last year. Okay, so the first thing is, if we want to have some stations in the city that are able to get to provide internet access, to be able to connect vehicles, to be able to connect people, the sensors and so on, we need to have these stations that are connecting to a nervous system, as Pedro was just mentioning, because we need to have access to all this information. So the first part was very, very basic. We really had to infrastructure the city. So the first phase is being actually concluded, and this first phase is the red part, and it contains 18 radio access points. The second phase is now starting. Okay, so we already are starting this phase with the blue, so is the blue line with the yellow points for the connecting parts. So we hope to have it ready by July this year. And why do you want to have this? Because then we have been working on two different solutions. So one of them is similar to this smart lamppost, but where we are more concerned now in terms of the radio part, the computing units, the possibility to include some cameras and so on. So we have here these posts. What are we deploying there? These reconfigurable radio units. So it can be 4G, 5G, but it can be any other technology that will come up. We are already installing 802.11p, and we want to have Cellular V2X in the very, very near future. We are actually including, I don't know if you heard about this, but it's backscatter communication. So to have battery-less communication for the sensors. So LoRa for the sensors that are more on a more farther away, Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi is for many options, but also for the users, because we want to be able to have hotspots for the users and the computing units, because we want to provide this edge processing also in these places. So we have these posts, these vertical poles in the city, and we also have these boxes in buildings. Okay, so mainly in partnership with the municipality of Aveiro, if we are able to have the buildings and the boxes there, of course, is much easier for us. And we are also working with mobile units. So we have onboard units that we actually already deployed in several vehicles here in Aveiro. So we have the Veolia. So Veolia is the company that is providing garbage collection here in the area of Aveiro. And in Transdev. So Transdev is the bus company that provides connectivity of people, transportation of people here in Aveiro. So we actually already have connectivity, so mobile communication, and also mobile sensing units. Of course, we want to provide more in the future, the bicycles, the boats. So we have special boats here in Aveiro, which are MobiSaves. I will show you them. And we want to be able to also gather the information from smartphones of the people through their connectivity, because if we know where they are, we can provide services to them. So I include here some examples of working scenarios. Here, the first one is something so simple as we have information. So we have the sensor units and the communication units in the vehicles. So we have information where they are. We have information about how they move. And even if we have, because we cannot just include our stations in all vehicles, but if we have cameras, if we have some LiDARs, we can also determine in several areas in the city, the vehicles that are coming, that are leaving. And this is actually very, very important for the municipality to be able to know the flow and to improve the flow of the mobility in the city. This graph here is actually something very interesting. So if we know every second where a bus is, we can calculate its acceleration and deceleration, and understand if it is in a safe zone, so if it is driving safely or not. So what you have here in the middle part is a safe zone. So fortunately, here in Aveiro, everyone is on the safe area, so everyone is driving very, very safely. But if we can combine this in terms of space and in terms of time, you can see the value of all this information. And now with the COVID, there are many projects and apps that want to see where people are, if they are in contact with people, if they have this distance, the safe distance or not. So one possibility, if you have these stations in the city and you have some cameras with some processing on the cameras, so not going into the privacy of the people, but just with the processing of the cameras, you can also see if people are or not apart in the safe distance or not. So this is very, very fancy at this stage. And here, so in terms of vulnerable road users with some sensors in the crosswalks, or even with video that you may have near the crosswalks, you can help very much the cars that are coming to these crosswalks, and give them information. So in the future, we want this to be autonomic, because we want the cars just to stop if there is someone in the crosswalk. But up to now, we can provide some interesting information. And why not? So if we have some cars that have some accident, the other cars can help, right? So they can, and we actually are working with a car manufacturer or a company where they want to have some vehicles that provide as gateways to give information of the accident, to give information from the video, and to help the medical services, the ambulances, and so on, to help much faster on all this process. So these are some examples. It can be much more. Now I'm going to show you two very, very short videos. They were done more than 1 year ago, but just to give you some interesting information of what can be done. So the first one is of the crosswalk awareness, where we have some piezoelectric sensors, so sensors without batteries that are near the crosswalks for people to come and to step on the sensors. And then we have an overall infrastructure where this information is sent to a roadside unit that then will spread to the cars that are in the near this. So this was some tests in the lab. So I told you this is more than 1 year ago. But then we did actually very, very successful tests already where we have the car. So now what you can see is an app, because we cannot just act on the car, but the idea is when Marina is crossing, the car just stops. And yeah, so this is the system. Actually, with a very similar system, we have done a traffic light system for these boats in Aveiro, for the moliceiros. So actually a big problem in Aveiro with these moliceiros is that they have a horn that is very, very strong, and people don't really like it. So the idea is to be able to have some virtual lights, virtual traffic lights in the boats in the moliceiros. So we provided this. So here in the lower part, you can see where the sensor is there. The sensor is detecting the boat, the moliceiro, and this is sent to an app for the guy that is driving the moliceiros. But it can, again, so we can provide this as some audio signal and to give them information. So now you go first, then you go afterwards. But it's interesting because it was almost the similar concept that we were able to use in these two scenarios. So all of this was done in Aveiro, and our idea, and it was done without infrastructure. That's why we have this computer here in the near the bridge. Okay, but what we want to do now is to have a place where we really are able to test all this, and we are able to test all these applications, new equipments, wherever that companies will take and will be able to test. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Susanna. It was really nice videos. Nice to see the moliceiros again. It's been over 2 months I've been to Aveiro, and it's good to see them again, as you mentioned. So we now have a short slot on questions and answers because we don't have much time left on this 1 hour session of webinar. And a few of the questions we got, I mean, our audience is not just with the industry and researchers. We have municipalities, we have citizens that are interested in technology. So we saw new equipments in cars, on the street, on the boats, more connectivity, more equipment. Will this coexist with existing equipments, or are cities or other investing just in more technology? Can they cooperate? What are your views on this?
Okay, so I can start. Yeah. So as I told you, so we had to start from the basics because one of the problems we had was, okay, so we will be able to provide all this technology, but we have to connect it somehow, right? So this was a first base. And Yeah, so in terms of the city, we had to expand, to expand, and we had to make sure that we are able to provide a base to start working. Okay, but this doesn't mean it has to be like this. So, for example, as Pedro was saying, so we had to provide the fiber, but if we have a wireless backhaul, so this means that the deployments that we have to do in the city are much smaller, right? So we can evolve and evolve a lot, and with lower and lower investment, we can provide the city with the capabilities to be able to get the needed technology and to be able to provide these services. Of course, this will always depend on what the city wants to do. In terms of the vehicles, the people, so there we are trying to disturb as less as possible. Okay, so we are using some equipments to develop some proof of concepts to show also to the citizens and to the companies what can be done. But the idea is not to really disturb, is not to really deploy different things in several places. And I really think that we will evolve on disturbing less and less.
What's your take, Puri? Thank you, Susanna.
Yeah, so maybe I can just add a few more points. I mean, I think what Susanna mentioned is quite correct, but I mean, the reality is like, I would say like there are two main players in this ecosystem of future mobility. From one side, we have industry. So no matter what, the industry is moving towards more autonomous vehicles, better connectivity. So the private sector, I would say like they're moving towards these technologies, and sooner or later we will see more, let's say, autonomous features in the cars. At the same time, I think like the public sector should also prepare themselves, but in a, let's say, strategic way. Our experience in Barcelona with 5G Barcelona and city deployments is more or less similar. So sometimes the blocker is not only the technology, the blocker is like disturbing the citizens, preparing the citizens, raising the awareness of citizens. I remember that in one of the deployments that we had in the streets of Barcelona, one of the citizens submit a complaint because he was thinking that the 5G, let's say, antennas would cause problem. So I mean, that's an important issue. So this living labs engaging citizens in the decision making, raising the awareness is a parallel action that I think we should promote. Cities should take it serious, and also they should think about a new, I wouldn't say like regulations, but like maybe procedures, internal procedures to facilitate adoption of future technologies. Because at the end of the day, more technology would bring more strong economy, safer roads, less fatality, less emissions. So it's on the benefit of the city, and sooner or later, I think all the cities should start moving towards this goal. So it's better to be prepared, better to learn experiences, and try to start now rather than later. Yeah.
So the living labs that you are creating in Aveiro, at Ubiwhere in Barcelona, these will be enablers for.
I think it's quite important. At least this is one of the lessons that you're learning through this urban mobility kit. So there are a lot of activities to raise the awareness between the citizens, between ourselves and city of Barcelona, just to let the citizens know how would it look like the future mobility. Don't get scared of new technologies. Yeah. It's on your benefit. Like, because I mean, after all, citizen acceptance is an important factor, I think, for the cities. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. Does anyone want to give just a few hints about the next steps? What we'll be focusing on? Pedro, I don't know if you want to give a hint, or Susanna.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned my name, so I will go first. Yeah, that's a good question, Ricardo. That's a good question. As I mentioned during my presentation, so it's important to I mean, it's not just infrastructure and these services and all of these technologies that we can do. As Purya was saying, we have to involve different parties to really showcase what the added value is here, and that all of us can actually benefit from this. It's not harmful. There's plenty of opportunities. Different people can interact. So I would say that in coming back to the presentation, the usability and really allow people to experience. So for instance, Susanna mentioned this initiative, and it's not just mobility. They have arts. They have different things. People engage with this technology. They can really see what we can build. So I would say that the next step is to, if you want to involve, and now talking specifically about the connected mobility sector, because it is a rich ecosystem. So if we do want to involve all of them to work together in tandem, this usability and this, we may have to focus more on the governance model and on the building model. That's why we are now working very actively on the blockchain level, because we do think that it may bring it may fill the gap, and it may act as the glue, because it may provide the much needed trust layer that we need for this sector to really foster. Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts, Suzanne and Purya, to involve the community, involve other cities?
Yeah, I would say that we are just starting. So when you talk about the future, we are provided the basis, the ground. So now is the time to start to involve, to show. I gave some examples, right? But we have to start to show what can be done, not only to citizens, but mainly to citizens, but also to the companies. So how they can use this to really evolve their businesses, to really involve people in their businesses before they provide the products, right? So I think it's very important also for the companies to understand if this has or not a value to the users, to the citizens, because they are able to provide it in a real environment. And the technology will be evolving. What we'll be able to do in the future, and if we think about all these self-driving things and so on, that now we are providing applications for the driver to know what to do. No, we want the car to know what to do with the information that we are able to give it. So I would say that this is just starting to now being able to provide applications and services to the people and to involve all the stakeholders.
Okay. Thank you so much to all for having the time of your busy agendas and participating today. I think it was a very good session to demystify some of the concepts and the technology. So I'll give you a virtual round of applause to you. Thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
so much.
For those of you who attended, thank you so much for staying tuned and for watching the video. The next session, we will share it in the meantime. It should be about electrical mobility. So stay tuned, and we'll be willing to have you back here. So thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care and
Thank
stay
you.
safe. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.